to get you the YouTube studio.
Hey.
That's good seeing nobody here.
Okay.
Surprise.
We're together. We say that like we live states apart.
Yeah.
We live 20 minutes apart. But
Yeah.
anyway, welcome to the Cultured Corner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Nikita.
I'm Asha.
And not Cultured Corner, Cultured Community.
I was like, what did you just say? I was like, she changed the name.
No, that's just my brain. The Cultured Community. And here we are. I realized I didn't say it right when I was going to explain the name, but we are a community of people who come together to talk about all things cults, toxicity, high control, narcissism, all the things, and we like to sprinkle in some culture.
Yeah.
So today we wanted to just talk about exploitation, as you see with the thumbnail. And the reason we really wanted to talk about this isolated topic is because when you escape a cult, an MLM, a narcissist, all these things are so similar. The Venn diagram is almost a flat circle.
Yes.
Yes. You don't really have a lot of words necessarily for what happened to you, because it just feels like, what the heck was that?
Yeah.
I know Asha and we used to ask each other all the time. We still do sometimes, but just, what did we survive?
What did we survive? Yeah.
And a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from you all has been, thank you so much for giving me words. I felt like something was off, but I felt like maybe it was my fault, or I just needed to get in line or repent or whatever. But you guys made it plain and clear, and you gave it words. And so even though we talk about exploitation, I think in probably every video, we really wanted to just target the topic today in hopes of illuminating this experience, the ugliness of it, and just the mental jujitsu that goes on.
Yeah. And just to really take more of a look at it, I know for me, it's been one of those things that has really hit me hard. We're a part of a Facebook group of people who have survived, ICOC specifically. And that's been a topic of discussion that has come up. The exploitation, the downright labor trafficking, the way we lost huge gaps in our adulthood, completely not advancing our careers, doing things for ourselves whatsoever, just making sure that this church had what it needed. And I've been talking to multiple people on the phone who just call me up and they're like, oh my God, do you remember this? Do you remember this? And we realize it runs so much deeper than we ever really thought. And it's just a lot. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, we're both in the education field.
Yeah.
And we would like to often start off making sure that we are all coming from a same understanding. So I went and looked for a fairly comprehensive definition of exploitation. And the information, the feedback I'm going to be sharing with you guys, it's a mixture of like the American, hold on, I want to get it right. The American Psychological Association, or APA, and then also some Psychology Today articles.
Yeah.
So here we go. This might be a little dry for some, but I do think it's important for us to have terminology, and to know that these things are real, and we're not just sensitive snowflakes who didn't like to work hard and who can't handle hearing the truth about ourselves. But there's actual terminology for this from professionals.
Yeah.
So here we go. Psychological definition of exploitation. Exploitation is an act or series of acts that takes unfair advantage of another person's vulnerability, dependence, or trust for one's own personal gain or benefit. This can encompass emotional, psychological, financial, or physical manipulation. Here's a breakdown of the key elements. One key element of exploitation is an unfair advantage. The exploitative person or organization holds a power imbalance over the victim. This could be due to factors like age, disability, mental health, status, economic dependence, or social standing. The next element after an unfair advantage is vulnerability, dependence, or trust. The victim is in a position where they are less able to protect themselves or make informed decisions. This vulnerability can be due to various factors like age, illness, lack of resources, or a trusting relationship with the perpetrator.
Yeah.
Manipulation. The exploitative person or organization uses tactics like coercion, deception, or intimidation to control the victim's behavior or choices. And then lastly, personal gain. The perpetrator's actions are motivated by self interest, such as financial benefit, power, or a sense of control. And so, just to give you a heads up of where we're going to go with this episode, we're going to talk about financial exploitation, exploitation of social status, current and future potential, exploitation in dating and encouragement dating, exploitation of hopes and dreams, and exploitation of goodwill. Did you want to say anything before we started diving in?
That's good. The good intro.
All right. Well, I'll hand it over to you anyway. The first thing we were going to talk about was the financial exploitation.
Financial exploitation. This is where the organization basically takes control over your finances, where you feel, I mean, it's like they become loan sharks, really. And so your devotion, your loyalty, how much faith you have, speaking of religious systems, how trusting you are in God, all these things are tied to so many things, but your money is a huge one. And so the organization becomes synonymous with God, with what you do with your money, how well you're doing spiritually, just how well you're thought of as a person really comes down to how much money you give. In ICOC, of course, and this is something that is seen amongst a lot of churches. It's seen with tithing. You're giving your money to God when you give it to us. Now, the exploitation comes in where tithing has one definition, and it is giving all of your money to us. This is how you serve God. So that's a big one. And that's something that you might not think is that big of a deal because that happens in churches all over the place. A big thing that was exploitation is something called special contribution in ICOC. So you have your tithing. And as I mentioned before, when you're a part of this organization, everybody is extremely devoted to it. Everybody. You get together in your Bible talk groups or small groups with your disciplers. And this is stuff you talk about. How is your giving? So that's something that they have on lock. It is on lock. And, and I have some stories. So you are giving that at least 10%. And there are tons of lessons where it's like, yeah, tithing, in the Old Testament, it was 10%. But let's look at the New Testament. Let's look at the first century Christians. They gave up everything they had. So even us asking just for 10% of your salary is nothing. The real Christians, the the first century Christians who we need to be modeling, they gave up everything. Let's look in Acts chapter 2. Let's look through how they actually lived. They sold their possessions. And they won't mention that scripture very specifically and blatantly says that they gave up everything, sold their possessions and gave to anyone who had need. That's what they were giving up their possessions for. It wasn't to pay salaries of ministry staff. Okay, but this is where scriptures, different pieces of literature, depending on what culture you're a part of, are used to motivate, obligate people to give financially. And so it became almost like we're doing you a favor. So in ICOC, there was this other thing called special contribution. Special contribution is where, and this is so messed up. Okay. This is where you are to take whatever your tithe is and multiply that times 10 or 15, depending on the year, right? When I first became a member of ICOC, I felt like it was 15 times whatever that was. At one point, I feel like they went down to 10. I could be understanding incorrectly,
It
but
was always 14
or
for
14.
me.
Okay. Then I was like about to say, I remember 14. So whatever your 10% is, let's just say 14. You have to multiply that times 14. Who knows? Maybe we were given 15 because my husband was very devoted to giving.
But it was weekly. Your weekly
Your
amount?
weekly,
Yeah.
whatever your weekly tithe was, you do times 14. And this is something that was, the way it was shared with us was that we're giving to our sisters and brothers. For our church, it was India. It was always to support a church somewhere in a third world country. Every now and again, it was given to the missions for a local church here or there, but it was yearly, and it was something given to a third world country. And let's talk about exploitation. They exploited these people in these other countries. For us, it was India. So during this time where we were supposed to be given our special contribution, there were highlight reels and videos shown of these church members in India and how their lives have been changed by the money we've given. So these people are being exploited, put on camera, shown where they live, how they live, telling us these egregious stories of things that happen to these people, sharing their trauma, sharing the persecution they go through. And don't you want to give to them? Don't you want to give to these amazing people? Look at how much they fight for the gospel. So that is at the door. Look at how much these people fight for the gospel. And it was to tug at your heartstrings. What is so interesting is I remember it becoming very, very rare to really explain when we were looking at these videos where this money was really going to. It really became unclear if the money was going to these people to help them or whether or not it was actually going to the church, because it's better to make it look like it's going to these people. I would talk to people after service and say, "Do you understand where this money's really going?" And they were like, "To the people, right? We're helping our sisters and brothers who live in poverty." I was like, "No, it's actually, this money was actually going to pay the staff, the people hired by the church, their annual salary or whatever expenses the church had. Some of this money," and we can talk about, oh, this is a whole thing we need to talk about, would go to something called Hope Worldwide. I'm not sure if that was consistent or not, but that's a whole thing right there. But it was actually going to administrative cost. Why? Because when we pay the salaries of these people on staff, we're helping to further the gospel. But they made sure it was very muddy where this money was going. When you are in service and you're looking at these videos, there were tons of people I spoke to who did not understand that the money wasn't going to these people in the videos being exploited, but it was actually going to the ministry staff to literally pay their salaries. So we as a church would collect $100,000 or more to go to these people for their salary plus whatever administrative cost was going on out there. And people were really under the impression that they were actually giving to their sisters and brothers who had need. This money wasn't given to them. But the need that this cult actually, convinced us that was that there is no church, there are no Christians, and we're these people's only hope. So you're literally paying to further the gospel. Now, this is something that was just told to you as a member, right? So we did the Bible study series, and we talk about how you're very desperate to be saved at a certain point, right? And it would be at this last study where you're ready to get baptized, where we would do counting the cost. And it was kind of like, all right, so you're about to be a member. Here's this, here's this, here's this, here's the cost you need to count. But you are already convinced that you're going to hell. So you're going to say yes to anything at that point. But one of the things for counting the cost was giving to special missions. And of course, you want to do that. You're a good person. But what you don't know is that they have decided what you're going to give. None of us actually sat in a meeting and said, we're going to give 14 times.
Sign me up. My 18-year-old self, sign me up. My 22-year-old self with tens of thousands of dollars of student loan debt, sign me up. And my waitress salary, my waitress hourly earnings.
Or no salary. I was just doing work study and lived on campus. And
in college I had no money. But right after, so everything my parent ever sent me instead of buying hygiene products and food.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. My first credit card debt was to get a credit card, and I went and withdrew money from the credit card to pay for a special contribution.
That's exploitation. Which is, I kind of wanted to wait because it's the last one we'll get to, but we might just tie it in the whole way. So if you remember from the intro, the exploitation of goodwill. They took Asha's, all of ours, yours, if you were a member, your desire to do well. You're, like Asha said, you're not a terrible person. You see all of these compelling images of these impoverished people whose families are stoning them and kicking them out of their houses because they want to follow Jesus. If you give us money, we can take care of these people. We can share the love of God with these people.
Because they're not being taken care of physically.
And so you're like, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, and then they tell you all these stories about how this one random couple in Scandinavia sold their second car so they could give money to special. And this one teenager in this one obscure place sold their PlayStation whatever number because they were so moved. And so, of course, Asha's going to think, well, if I'm in America and I have access to the credit system and God is going to bless me for this sacrifice.
Yeah.
You see, nobody with a functioning frontal lobe is going to hear that and think, yes, that's a perfectly sound and founded financial plan. That's wonderful, Asha. Nobody's going to say that. But when you're in this system, and remember, go back to the definition where they exploit you for their gain. And one of the gains was financial.
Yes.
Then they can convince you. They concoct this messaging. And what they also do not mention is a lot of these leaders, not all, but a vast majority of the leaders whose salaries they are paying are not even citizens of those countries. Most of the time they will be white. Sometimes they will not be.
Yeah.
But most of the time they will be white. And if the main staff is not, there's probably a white paid intern or someone who's being trained up to take that spot.
Yeah.
And even if they're not white, they're just still likely not native.
Yeah.
There, not getting the full salary, the full stipend. And again, just you have this image that maybe they're being given food, maybe we're buying houses or shelters or something, right? Giving these people resources so they could be gainfully employed, or, if they've been displaced by their family, all these things you're thinking maybe, right? Because it's just this vague, we're going to share with them the love of God. We're going to take care of them. Yeah. But it's really just, we're going to make sure that our colonizers are there. We're going to make sure that our representatives are there to spread the ICOC mission so we can have more branches coming out of our discipling tree. Pyramid. We're going to fund this mission and plant as many franchises as possible. And we're going to send the most indoctrinated people faithful to this mission to make sure it really takes hold and sticks. That's what we're going to be doing there. And that's how we're sharing the love of God. Obviously, them evangelizing with people while they're there and training them in righteousness according to the ICOC is because what is more loving than saving them from eternal damnation?
Yeah.
And then if you haven't seen the live that we did with Tanya, and the big word on it is whistleblower.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, ex-staff turned whistleblower with Tanya Diaz. She talked about how in Mexico and other Spanish-speaking countries that she had been to, where mission teams were sent there, that not only was the gospel spread, and that's debatable whether the true gospel was spread,
Right.
but the culture would change, and the native traditions, like even the way that people got married, they changed it to match more American style weddings. And so if anybody just thinks we just like to pull the race card, or why do we have to make it about that? And it's like, because it literally was about that.
Yeah.
So just to sprinkle that in there.
Yeah. And I do want to say that if someone watched this video and said, well, no one told Asha to take that money out of her credit card, I do want to put it out there. A big part of the reason why it's exploitation is because it is pushed heavily. Every single time you show up to midweek or church service during this campaign for special contribution, you are reminded of how we're doing as a church. You get together in your groups and someone holds an envelope walking around saying, do you have your special contribution this week? So it's a way to publicly put you on the spot to see if you're actually giving your special contribution as well. So they have that thermometer, how much have we raised? Your church is broken up into different regions. If your region isn't doing well, they definitely will report on how good this region is. I remember one time on the south side of our region, we were told how the peninsula, and I point to Nikita because she was on the peninsula, I was on the south side. We were told how the peninsula had given more than us, or they had collected over 100% of theirs. And then they broke down that people on the peninsula actually make less than us on the south side, no joke, and pretty much said their hearts were just better. And just shamed us. Like they just use people, and you're feeling terrible. So guess what happened the next week? Our region overgave. And it was like, good job. Like this is the type of pressure you get. And again, all these things become synonymous with how much you love God, how faithful you are. If you can't give this money, it's because you weren't doing well. You weren't a good steward. You're not faithful enough. So me going to this ATM to withdraw money from my credit card was me being faithful. I was like, I gotta have faith. I know I can pay this back. Maybe if I had planned better, I would have had it. But all you are hearing, no one is saying, can you do this? Is this too much for you? Actually, they're saying the opposite. They're telling us how this region is doing way better. And they're saying, we made this fair for you. This is one thing. It's just the mind effery that they do. They said, well, the reason we said 14 times your weekly tithe and we didn't just give you a set number is because we're making this fair for everybody. Because 14 times what you make is very different than 14 times what this doctor makes. We're making it fair. They did not even leave space to say, you can't do this. We know some people can't do this. Don't do this if it's something you can't. It always boiled down to, you don't have a choice, or you can choose it. However, you should know that God is displeased with you. You should know that the only reason someone wouldn't be able to do this is because their hearts are bad. And you're obviously irresponsible. And then they were throwing things like, this is our responsibility. We have decided to take care of this church. These people are dependent upon you. Their ability to survive, their ability to function depends on us not being so selfish as Americans. This is the pressure you're hearing week after week, multiple times per week. That's how cults work. That's how the exploitation gets in there. It's a psychological manipulation. And in ICOC, it's set up perfectly for this because there is such a hierarchy already there. Such an hierarchy already there where you don't question these leaders. You know, they were put there by God. We're supposed to respect them. They didn't ask me, they're not talking to me like this would be a hardship for me, so it must not be. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say about that part too.
Now I almost wish maybe we can go away and see if there are any special contribution sermons or like ceremonies out there.
Yes.
Because I know for 1 or 2 years on the peninsula, and I wonder if they did it on the south side too, where they made it, what did they call it? They didn't call it like a triumphal procession, but it was kind of like that, where there was like this 1 or 2 Sunday. I think it was 1 Sunday. So people have been giving, you know, little bits of their installment because they don't demand that you pay it all at once. You can give it in bit. Like there's a window. There's a window where you can be making these payments, but then there is a due date. And so I think the final day it was like there was going to be special musical performances and things like that. And people would have envelopes. And you were supposed to, like everybody, I think row by row or Bible talk by Bible talk, which is like their small group, was supposed to like come up and walk the perimeter of the church and then like drop their envelope in and do a little dance. And like the kids could go up there with you. And it was supposed to be this big celebration of how you're sowing into the kingdom of God. And just imagine, you know, if you were someone who wasn't able to give, like it's that awkwardness, the social standing, and it really is made out to be an issue of your heart. And so even when I was in the campus ministry, a college student, and would go to the leaders meetings, the way that we were trained and taught to train and like disciple and basically loan shark our peers was that we were accountable for, we were leading, which is problematic in itself. Oh, I just spit. Was to tell them that it was a heart issue. If you can't give when you have a little, you will not give when you have a lot because you just have a stingy heart. And that they actually apparently were taught this in the teens as well. And that like, well, what allowance do you have? Do any of you have jobs? Well, what money are you getting from your parents? You need to practice. You need to get in the practice of giving now. Or your heart is just dark. And there's like almost this immediate condemnation. Like if you can't give now and you get $30 a month, which I don't even think I got that when I was I mean, my needs were met, but my mom was not giving me an allowance. She was like, I allow you to live here. But anyway, so whatever, like I might get money to go on a field trip. That you're told as a 13 to 17 or 18-year-old, if you don't give of this very limited supply that you have, guess your heart's just selfish. And you might think that once you get a good job and you're taken care of, that you would give more, but you are mistaken. You're actually evil and selfish. And so if you don't want to be that way for the rest of your life, you better start proving it now. You better start practicing your giving now. And another way that this came through too, especially for all the ministries. I just think of the college one, and then right when people are right out of college and like the singles and young professional ministries. And especially the time I was in, let's see, I graduated college in 2011. So the whole mortgage collapse and recession happening in 2008, like I got out of college and myself and all my peers were like, what jobs? At this time, it was all the news stories were about how people my age were having a hard time getting jobs because all these companies very stable, previously stable companies were having layoffs, and they were having to prioritize people with seniority, people who needed to keep paying into their 401k, people who needed benefits because they had children, people who were
Wow.
preparing for retirement. And so myself and my peers, we were lucky if we could get an internship.
Yeah.
Granted, lots of people did get jobs, but
Mhm.
lots of people didn't. I was part of
Yes.
that age group where it was just so widespread. Like the news titles, why are 25-year-olds moving back in with their families? Like that was my people's. That was me. So you have that on top
Mm.
of how I had no experience, because we'll get to that. All my talents were exploited for ministry internships.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is we had no money even after graduating high school, but we had to be so hospitable and throw the best Bible talks 2 to 4 times a month. And what does that involve? Buying snacks,
Yeah.
buying napkins. Are there any accessories for the icebreaker game? And then once you're in the singles or young professionals, you might not always be meeting in someone's house. You need to go to the
Yeah.
happy hour to meet the other young professionals in your area. You need to go to, out for food.
Oh my God.
And there's all this money that is required for you to spend. And don't not go, because then you don't have faith, or then you're prideful. You're prideful. You didn't think to ask your brother or sister to pay for you? Or why don't you eat before you go and then just have like a tiny appetizer while you're there? What the heck? Like, and then even in college, we had to pay for cookies and chips. It was mainly a lot of cookies and chips. But
Yeah.
then when you get out, it's like, you guys need to upgrade your snacks. People in the community, your status, your age, they're not going to be attracted to the gospel if this is what you guys are serving. But it's like, with what we weren't given a church budget. We had to pay for that. And that was
Yes.
just the small groups. That's not the encouragement dates. That's
Yeah.
not the other events. That's not eating after Sundays. That's not other fellowship hangout times, because you're always supposed to be with these people. And God forbid you ever just stay at home.
Yeah.
Like, it was a lot.
And that was something I was thinking about, something you said, like hardships in ICOC, it's like they don't exist. Hardships don't exist. We don't have time for that. We don't want to hear that. You wouldn't have them. If you're having hardships, it's probably something you did, and you need to prove your faithfulness to God by getting out of it. We don't care about any of your mental illness, how sick you are, how tired you are. You're going through depression. What is that?
Oh yeah, mental illness didn't exist till like the last few years.
To the last few years. That was sin. You were in sin. You were prideful.
Ungrateful.
Ungrateful. You needed to repent, because repentance is refreshing. So if you know what depression is, it's not feeling refreshed. That probably means that you need to repent of something. The repentance that you probably need to do is being out of yourself. You're just too self-focused. It doesn't exist. There was never any reason why you can't show up and give everything to this organization. We don't care about how you're doing. Yeah. Any building fund? Yeah.
They had scriptures for everything.
Everything. That was one of them. They had a scripture for everything. There was never a reason why you can't give everything to them. And you really did. People were already giving everything. That's the thing. I was talking to a friend, and she called me up and she was like, I just remember pulling over and parking in different parking lots and just praying to God that He would change something in my circumstances, because I'm running out of resources. I'm running out of resources, and I still have to go and pick up all these teens. We're spending money on all this gas. We're traveling to all 7 cities to hang with these kids. So that's another thing. Teen ministry workers is a whole other level of exploitation, and just not knowing how I'm going to pay my bills. But knowing that it is not an option for me not to give, but just not knowing where I was going to be giving from, and just praying and begging God. I said, we did do that. And saying, do you remember one year when we were feeling squeezed the most? Out of nowhere, this family, excuse me, burping, who had family who would travel to Japan for the summer, had reached out to me and you and asked if we could house sit for the summer. We could live in their home rent free, just, feed the dog or whatever. We were so grateful. We were so grateful because we just didn't know how we were going to pay our bills. She was like, oh my God, I forgot about that. And I remember us thinking to ourselves, God heard us. God answered our prayers. And God did. He did. But he should have never had to do that. It's like, again, it never occurred to us. Why are we in this position? Well, number one, our lives were exploited so much during college. That's a blur. College is a blur for so many. If you were in a campus ministry, you probably experienced this. College was a blur because you're there to only work for the church and share your faith and bring other college students out, and you're cleaning people's houses. Oh Lord, you're doing all kind of things. You're helping people move. You're just a workhorse of the church. Who cares about your education? So you didn't do much in the way of,
unless you were a leader's child.
Yeah, if you're a leader's child, you got awards. You part of all kind of debate teams, and you doing all kind of stuff. And it's, for whatever reason, it's good for you. If you are a leader's child, you don't even come to anything except Sunday and midweek because you're in nursing programs and you got so much work to do. We all were in, I was pre-med. Nobody told me that. So it's different standards. So if you sit there and say, that's not true, I was told that I didn't have to come to stuff. Shut up. It's because your mama and your daddy say, leave my kid alone, exploit these other children. That's what happened. That's what happened. And if you don't want to acknowledge that, then that's just too damn bad, because that's exactly what happened.
And even if they weren't leaders, if they were just members, if they were members, because there was a young woman who was in college with me, and her mom lived in a different state, but she was a member, and she was a dermatologist, very intelligent, very sweet, but very practical. Now I'm like, hats off to her, but she was very concerned. Her daughter was pre-med. She needs to study, she needs to this.
That's right, yeah.
And our ministry leader, who was a doctor, basically was like, well, her mother has weak faith, and her mother, they can be more worldly, and they do that a lot. That was even, I believe, in the video, if you haven't seen Asha's solo video that she did recently about why do people stay in cults, why do they stay, there was a clip of a man preaching, I think at a marriage retreat, and he was like, who are you getting advice from? Is it your therapist? Is it your this? Is it your that? And he's like, even your parents, even if your parents are in the church, if your parents are elders, it's like, what the heck? It just gets crazier and crazier. Like, unless it's your assigned discipler, aka handler, don't listen to him. Like he said the previously quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
Even if your parents are in the church, just think about it. If you listen to them, parents don't always see correctly. You mean parents don't always get in line with your mission of exploitation?
Yes.
So, but sorry, back to the previous point, because I detoured.
It's okay. We both did.
If the parent speaks up and you get left alone, it's kind of the concept of the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
And a lot of us who didn't have parents, either A, who were leaders, or B, who were disciples, we had cut them off.
Yes.
We cut them off at, the advice and the influence of this organization.
Yes.
And so they were almost a non-issue at that point. But
like a non-factor.
Yeah. So even if your parents weren't even if they weren't members or leaders, oh my God, I'm not saying it right. Even if they were not leaders, if they were members and they made enough noise, if they caused enough drama, the leaders would leave you alone, but still probably would occasionally whisper in your ear that you pray to make faithful decisions.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, that was so hard to get out.
I think it's hard to get out because it's a moral injury. I know it is for me. I was one of those teen leaders that was encouraged to help the teen see past the faithless advice of their parent.
I hated when I was not a teen leader as long as you were, but I did not enjoy for the little bit that I was in there that I had to act as modesty police. And of course, parents would buy clothes for their daughters that they felt were appropriate. And then I was supposed to come in and be like, it's a little short. The audacity.
Yeah.
The audacity to come in somebody else's house.
Yes.
And talk to them about what they feel comfortable about letting their child.
Yeah.
I'm just glad we never got slapped in the face. Because what? Because I'm sorry.
And you know, I think it got to a point where I know from my particular teen leader group where we just thought we were the best teen leaders in the world because we were so involved. And we were so hands-on. We were so good at just getting those teens to be the type of disciples we were trained to be, you know. And a lot of people, a lot of teens, you know, again, their parents might have been converted as adults. So there's just these different levels. I plan on doing, I did have some graphics I wanted to share today, but I forgot them. I would like to do a lesson one day about understanding the different levels of control for different people in the group. And when you're an adult, you're indoctrinated when you're a full-grown adult when you come into this church, but it's different levels of indoctrination.
You should do it like a package plan.
I know.
Like the base, like the bronze, the silver, the gold, the platinum, the diamond. Like,
girl, that's it.
Do it like
that's it.
Here you get the basic membership, basic level of respect. But unless you work really hard, you will probably never be a leader.
Yeah. Or we won't approach you like we approach these campus and teen people because you might slap us in the face. Like so you said.
Like you get less fame.
Yes.
But you get more personal respect.
You get a little bit more personal respect. A little bit more.
Just a little more respect of your back. But it's just because we don't expect that much from you.
We just don't expect that much from you. The campus ministry is the top 1% of the church.
But because of that, we insult them all the time and smile while we do it and make them smile.
And that's how it works. When you're in campus and you saw it, go back to that ACR lesson, you know, speaking to the campus ministry, you're the future of the church. Where the campus goes, so goes the church. Why do they say that to the campus students? Because those are the truly indoctrinated people. You feel special. You feel like I work so hard because I am sold out for Christ, unlike these people who got married, had kids, and now they're lukewarm. This is what these young kids are told. You're just, the reason you don't fall in line like they do is because you're just not doing as well spiritually. You're just not as amazing as they are.
We promise you, this is not exact. Well, I know we can laugh and joke a lot, and I don't think we exaggerate a lot, though. But we laugh and joke because it's so absurd. We promise you, these exact things have been said to us.
Just go listen to some of it, and I got a video coming that I'm working on. And you know, I don't.
Wait, is that the? Yeah. Okay, never mind.
I don't. I'm like, yes, you do have to.
I don't think I made the connection.
Yeah, because then we talk.
See, that's how good the video is gonna be in. I didn't know there was that point that was gonna be made.
It's so funny, like because I am a little cult girl, you know, who is fighting my subconscious. Because you guys have no idea how indoctrinated I was. I was on the phone with someone who was a member for 12 years who left the other day, and we were on the phone for 4 hours, and we were just going back and forth about our experiences. This person was in singles, so even their experience was so different. We're both exploited, but I I laugh at her sometimes. I'm like, oh yeah, I would have never done that. I would have never done that, because of my level of exploitation, and my indoctrination. I was so indoctrinated. So sometimes still doing these videos, you can probably see I start off a little awkward in the beginning. Because there's everything in my brain is like, you do not speak badly about them. You do not do this. You are going to die, and so I have to push past it. But it always happens that as soon as we drop a video talking about something, here comes a lesson proving exactly what
Or a
we
post.
said. A lesson or a post that is way worse than anything we actually said. I was like, dang, we was being gracious. This is going to be amazing.
I don't think we ever, what's the saying? Truth is stranger than fiction.
Yes.
Because I don't think in all our days we could have ever imagined that someone would get on a world summit stage and say, if one more person talks to me about a conviction they got from a podcast, I'm gonna vomit. Or they were sharing their prayers about deeper relationships and times with God. They were terrible prayers.
I was like, do we have to pray for this? Ew.
I feel like there was one more and I can't remember it.
And the one, don't talk to your parents. Oh, boo. And that's just the few things we found. It's so much more out there. Oh, your video, The Leaders Speak for Themselves, was just so amazing.
Oh, the one where
what did you say? Yes.
Well, it might be two different ones.
Okay.
Because there's so many quotes.
Yeah.
But the one where the one leader was like, if your teens ask you questions, you don't talk to them with, what is it? You don't talk to them with worldly logic. Talk about Jesus. My 6-year-old right now, if he came to ask me, Mommy, how come my friend at school takes things and doesn't listen to my words? And I said, Jesus is so loving. Just trust Jesus.
That's what you're supposed to say, actually.
I know. Yeah. Just trust Jesus and pray for their hearts. My son, who's actually very, very loving, but he just has a very strong, which lots of kids do, I think, before we beat it out of them. Mentally and or physically. He has a strong sense of justice. I feel like he would look at me and he might give one rebuttal. But what about this? And I say, well, we just pray. And he was like, and he would never talk to me about it again. He would never. He's like, I don't know. So I can't imagine an actual teenager bringing you some real life stuff and saying, let's not worry about logic. Let's talk about But he literally said that. Don't talk with logic. Talk about Jesus.
And just the way they were exploiting the campus interns.
Oh,
that part.
I have a YouTube short about it, and that's also in The Leaders Speak for Themselves, part 1. It's in the second half. Kevin Miller, I think, is preaching. But I do have a YouTube short about it. It says, these are the cream of the cream of the United States. These interns, they're radicals. We pay them nothing. Or we pay them almost nothing, or we're paying them nothing. And they're living in disciples' attics with no space, or with space heaters. Either space heaters or no space heaters. Both is bad, honestly.
Yes.
They're radicals.
Yeah. You see how it's talked about? And then this is an example for all of you. They're the creme de la creme. Why? Because they work like dogs for nothing and sleep on floors in our attic. That's it. That's the goal. That's the goal, you guys. And they don't have any conscience about what they're doing to other people's children. And this is why they don't want you talking to your parents.
Because it couldn't be mine. I don't think it could be yours either, honestly.
Listen, the dragging that would occur. It
wouldn't have got this far. It would not have.
But we kept those things from our parents, from people who cared about us. We both have tumultuous relationships with the parents, and it was actually familiar treatment for me.
Well, both of us. That's how it got here. But I think the way that
Mhm.
our kids are now, and Asha's kids are not much older than
Mhm.
my son, and just the way that they carry themselves now in their
Yeah.
social interactions. I don't want to do this. I'm gonna cry. If you ever want to make me cry, ask me something about my son. But I'm just like already
Yeah.
how free they are, how confident,
Mhm.
very respectful and loving, very
Yes.
selfless.
Yeah.
But when like being able to state a boundary and withhold it at an age appropriate level, or then
Yes.
come and talk to us about it,
Yeah.
hopefully
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like we're gonna have to worry about that,
No.
because they're already so different than we were. Like, just
So
it's almost
different.
embarrassing sometimes how they feel no need to comply. It's like, you could comply a little bit. I love that you are so empowered.
And they just don't walk around with the shame and guilt in their bodies. Like, it was just so interesting. Jordan got into a little scuffle with somebody.
I was thinking about that incident. I wasn't gonna say it.
At her gymnastics class. And I mean, when she told me the situation, I was like, I get it. My mommy probably would have did the same thing. No, I didn't say that, but I was like, obviously I don't want you, hitting people, but I understand why you did it. I'm not upset with you. I want you to be safe. Try to handle it a different way first.
He had it coming. When Asha texted me, I was a very proud auntie. I was like, she told you. She told you several times.
She told you to stop. She told you to stop.
Oh, now it's a problem. Oh, because she said something else. I'm sorry. So if you guys haven't noticed, I'm slowly going through our old lives. And the last couple of videos that I posted, it's where I go through our lives and I cut out all these little kind of juicy bits.
Yes.
Some of you guys really like it. You say it makes you feel like you're part of the group chat with us. And we love being here with you.
Yeah.
But some people just want the straight meat. So,
Yeah, exactly. And so this same event with her gymnastics group came up again, and she was like, I want to go. Of course, because of this little scuffle, she kind of got in trouble. She doesn't really like that because she likes to be a good girl. She was so shocked. She's like, I've never been in trouble. So I thought she would have all of this shame to go again. And she was like, no, I just want to go. Keep the filler. Thank you. She was like, no, I want to go. And I was like, thinking to myself, you don't have to go, because it would be so hard for me to face those people again in that environment, and those chaperones that you just got in trouble with. But everything in me was like, don't say that. She doesn't know what that's like. She learned from that experience, and she's like, I want to go again. Why? Because you haven't instilled all of this shame in her. You haven't told her she's a bad person. You haven't assaulted her character. You talked to her like a human, and you cared about her when that situation happened. She doesn't know the shame you feel. Don't give it to her. And I was like, wow, that's our doing for raising them different, that they're able to be like, mistakes happen. I'm still a good person, and I'm just going to walk back in and enjoy my life. This is normal,
High five.
And I'm just gonna, keep learning. So anyway, yeah. So if I found out that my daughter, who was supposed to be at college enjoying her life and on Saturday morning studying, just talking with friends, that she got away for this new experience, that instead she was being woken up in the morning to go clean the home
of rich white people.
The things
who have kids of their own.
That
could be cleaning their parents' house.
Yeah. The things that I would do, the things that I would say, the way they would wish they never met me. And
the news would be involved. I would call the news. What is this? Sorry.
They should have been involved. And here's the thing too. When you're this young indoctrinated kid, And they're telling you that this is you serving God because these leaders do so much for us. They do so much for us. And, we should be willing to help them, And also, you're in this weird hierarchy, this cult, right? Where it's an honor to kind of get close to leaders. It's almost an honor to be in their home. So you also see it as a way to get to know them, maybe get some advice from them because they are these spiritual gurus. You are in this whole world of Delulu because of the BS you've been fed. But when these people were people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who did this, their brains were fully developed. How did you do that? How did you, as an adult, brain fully developed, go, you know what I'm going to do this weekend? I'm going to commission this leader to go and round up some of them campus students and have them come clean my house this weekend. I can't even imagine doing that. I can't even imagine doing that. What type of person are you? Who do you actually think you are? You have no fear. Did you not think that somebody's parent could show up and kick in your door? No, you didn't, because you knew you had people that indoctrinated, which is why we make these videos. I hope that there are young campus students watching this right now and going, oh my God, because I wish I had that. We didn't have any of that because we were in this system. We were in this system where we were isolated. Back when we were in campus, there was no social media. Facebook just started like right after we graduated. Well, no, not you. Facebook, you had Facebook. The internet just started. The internet we had DSL on campus, and it was like, we got DSL. Listen, the Wi-Fi was not a thing yet when I was in college. So, yeah, completely isolated, no resources. And of course, okay, so you had internet. Facebook was new. Facebook was kind of new when you
Facebook was like really, really, my senior year at the end, it was like, have you hopped on Facebook yet? Like my main thing was MySpace, but my summer after I graduated, I was on Facebook connecting with people from the campus I was going to. So that's yeah.
There you go. So we've still had this level of isolation that y'all don't have, which I'm so excited about. I'm so happy. But yeah, so the exploitation.
Yes. Okay. So I did want to talk about, before we moved on from financial, because this last one, I think a lot of people could get, giving rides. Giving rides. You are expected, if you have a car, to give rides to everybody who wants to be at Bible talk or at church. If they don't have a car. And my campus, so we were at an HBCU, a historically Black college or university, Hampton University. And your freshman year, you're not allowed to have a car there. And I'm not sure, maybe that started as a reason, like just to build community or something. And then I think there was also a functionality, because there just wasn't a ton of parking on campus. So both. But then as a sophomore, you may or may not have a car. Then we were always very fruitful in bringing visitors out. And so sometimes there would need to be 4 or 5 cars of random people who did not even go to our school, just to bring all we called them visitors. Just to bring all of our visitors to different events, hangouts, services, devotionals, whatever, retreats. But then don't be too much of a burden. And I know I've mentioned this in a video in the past. Again, we don't have jobs where we're taking full course loads. I think all of us, everyone who was part of the Hampton University campus ministry, we had scholarships. I believe we all had scholarships, and you had to keep a 3.33 average to keep that scholarship. And they would always say 3.3 average. And they would always say 3.29 does not roll over. And so we didn't feel like there was a lot of time to work while taking these, rigorous courses.
Yeah.
And then our families were not very affluent, the majority of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would get shamed for not being able to give gas money. And it was hard because it's like, you guys mandate that we be everywhere,
Yes.
but we can't afford to work.
Yes.
But now we're being shamed and told people don't want to give us rides because we don't have money. What do you want from us? But then fast forward 2 or 3 years, when everybody from our campus ministry graduates on time, now we're being held up as an example because so many other students from other campuses were graduating in 5 or 6 or 7 years.
Yes.
But it's because they had to be at Bible talk, be at movie night, be at all the individual Bible studies, be at the leaders meetings, be at Sunday service, be at Wednesday service. Then there are weekend different things. Then there's encouragement dates, like be at conferences, there, be at retreats, retreat in the fall, retreat in the, the spring, be at the all night prayer, be at the early morning prayer, be at so-and-so's baby shower, be at so-and-so's birthday encouragement celebration, clean the leaders, like all these things. Oh, then don't forget the people that you're studying the Bible with. You need to hang out with them so it doesn't feel transactional. Actually do friendship things with them. So they weren't graduating on time. It's a miracle if you could, but back to us. A little no money crew. And you want us to invite people out, but only if we can pay for them to get out. So we're shamed. But then when we graduate, now we are shiny golden beacons of academia. Which is it?
Yes.
Which is it? Like you cannot win. You cannot win. And then I imagine, how do the other campus students feel? Like, okay, well, HU gets held up, but I did all of this. We went to all your freaking tea parties. Like
we assume we must have misinterpreted them. And then you were kind of, oh man, okay, I can do this. You were kind of shamed for not speaking up about it when you were never expected to speak up. When you spoke up, you were gaslit. You were told that you obviously don't have enough faith, that you must be doing something wrong if you can't do these things. And then later on, when they see the ramifications of the pressures they put on you, they go, why didn't you say something? That happened so many times. So yeah.
Okay, last thing.
Dissociation.
I wanted to say while Asha's having her moment. I remember in the campus ministry, and so this is still on the topic of the financial exploitation in the campus ministry, and even right outside of it. After graduating, I was often in need. I was often the recipient of someone else's sacrifice, someone else's giving heart. Sure, we'll give a ride. Sure, you can come over here and we'll make dinner for you. Sure, you can do your laundry at our house. Oh, you came to this fellowship event. I'll pay for your food. We're all going to the movies, and I'd be like, I can't afford to go to the movies. And like, it's okay, I got you. And I am from a Southern Black family, and my dad is first generation immigrant from the Caribbean, Dominican, also 2 military parents. And for whatever it's worth, for whoever is watching this, a Capricorn rising. Do you know the depth of pain that it is for me to ask for help? With all those factors, okay, and an oldest sister. The how painful, older sibling in general, but then the way older sisters are socialized.
Don't even get me started.
So like pain me to my core, how much I was discipled on being humble enough to be willing to accept help, to be willing to accept charity. But the one thing that someone told me finally that helped me to feel better about it was that, how did they explain it? But basically, like, there are people who give, there are people who receive. This is your season to receive. And when you get older and you become, more established and on your feet, then it will be your turn to give. Like, we all have different roles at different times. And that kind of helped. I was like, okay, okay, okay. But how that manifested was I did. When I, got older, made more money, then got married and had 2 incomes in the household, we literally, the way we looked for our townhouse, the way we looked for even the home that we purchased was, is there a guest room? We want a house with a guest room because we want to be able to house an intern. That was very important to me. People let me stay in their homes. Okay, I'm married now. Okay, it's time for us to be able to have guests in our home. It's time for us to be able and willing to feed other people. Okay, it's time. And in that way, they just kind of keep this cycle going where you're just always creating people who feel not necessarily grateful, though yes, I was very grateful, but indebted. And kind of
That's
back
it.
to what Asha was saying about how you and your friend and former roommate were like, oh my God, God answered our prayer. Yes, but why were you in that circumstance in the first place?
Right.
Why? It's like they create the problem.
Yes.
And then praise themselves and teach us to praise them for solving the problem they created. If I would have kept my initial major, if I would have gone to internships in my field that were plentiful and presented to me, that I had opportunities to go to, I turned down potential leadership positions at my university. Like, if I hadn't done all of that, I probably would not have needed, after I graduated, all of that, like, or then even if I hadn't isolated my family, I maybe could have stayed with my family like a lot of people did, like just things to think about. But yeah, I was in that place where I was receiving a lot of aid, and then I then got exploited. My gratitude, my indebtedness was exploited. And even as a very young person in my early and mid 20s, house hunting with the thought of, how can I keep feeding into this system so I can support other people who are being exploited, even though, of course, that's not the way that I saw it at the time.
It's just a whole system of exploitation.
It's a whole system,
that continues to go and go and go. I see this comment here, and I feel like this could be a whole other video.
That's kind of like, we're going to touch on it later in this video, but that could be a whole video of its own.
This could be a whole video of its on its own. The whole sharp people thing is just another version of exploitation. You're trying to bring in people with certain standing in society, certain gifts, people who are influential. Why? Because they're the ones who might have a greater chance of filling in that pyramid, filling in the bottom of that pyramid more. It's a higher probability that they're going to attract people to this cult, and you'll just have more people to exploit under them. And then these people too, these sharp people kind of get rewarded in a certain way. Ooh, that's a whole thing.
Well, that's actually our next point. So we talked about financial exploitation and now social status. Right. Perfect segue. Thanks for moving us along.
Thank you.
So you are, and so for anyone who doesn't know the phrase sharp people, it's basically someone who's like a leader type, someone who's charismatic. Me and Asha, we're very sharp. Articulate, have ambition, have decent mental cognitive abilities. Just the people who look good, and we can make the organization look credible. We're sharp people who can possibly make money. And so when you're in and you are a me and an Asha, you are pushed to convert other sharp people, other leaders. We were actually for a time discipled pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Laura. Yes. Sharp in a white perspective.
Thank you, Laura.
Yes.
Yes.
Because there are so many
Ooh.
intelligent,
Yes.
people of so many ethnicities who speak in different dialects, but are not considered sharp. So anyway, we're not, because I'm like, tell me that a grandma who's raising her 2 kids, who has figured out how to send in a payment with a check with money that's not in the bank yet, but has counted the days before it's actually going to whatever. And then they pull money from here to put it in there. So that way, by the time the check arrives, the money is there. And then you use the credit card to do this. And then, the bus gets off at this time and I'm going to work this job, and how to make it work. And then makes a schedule of what days every food bank is open to get all the food pieces together. Like, tell me that's not sharp.
Oh my God.
Tell me that's not sharp. But she's not going to be asked to lead a lesson. Anyway,
goodness.
Y'all came today. Y'all showing up in the live today. But yeah, because tell me that's not sharp. Anyway.
I'm coming back.
Or then even like the different immigrants who come here and figure out the different ways to get paid and receive money, and then how much to send back to their families, and to avoid this, but be credible in this way, and then get their kids here and build a life. Tell me that's not sharp.
Sharp was being sharp in the perspective of one demographic and one demographic only.
And that's who they wanted. That's who they wanted. So, and that's one, another little side comment. I can't remember if we've said this online or not, but we often joke about it to each other, that because Asha and I are sharp in that sense, and then even for what it's worth, even our facial features, the tone, the like shade of our skin, and then our facial features, our structure, and the way that we speak and stuff. A joke that we have, I was like, I bet they never thought the good little light-skinned girls were going to be the ones to make these videos, huh? We were so well trained. We were so meek and mild. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I was meek and mild. I was who I was. And then when I realized that it wasn't appreciated, I just shut up completely.
I remember 2 other Black girls who are very beautiful, articulate. And this one leader, when she moved to another country, and it was her going away party, she looked at these 2 girls and was like, I'm going to miss you so much. You're my 2 favorite little Black girls. She said that to them. And I stayed a member of this church. So, excuse me while I go get in my car, drive to the high-rise bridge, and jump off. Because I sat there and was like, ooh, can one of y'all come to my house and punch me in the face? Taylor, you can do it. Taylor, I see you. And if you
hey, y'all.
if you could just come over here, just push me out a window. And the reason she said that, because that's how they see us. It just came out of her mouth. That's how they see us. It's the good little Black girl. So it's just funny that you said that. It's funny that you said that. And I'm like, no, she actually said that mess. That was actually said.
Wait, whisper, who was it?
I will give you one guess. Whisper it. Who said it? Who moved to another country and said that to? Yes! Said it! In front of all of us!
Y'all, if you go to my solo racism video,
it's the same person.
My campus minister who slid in my DMs and told me that if it weren't for a white person, I might not be where I am today. It's that person. Taylor!
Yes. Taylor.
Don't put it on the screen.
I'm not going to put it on the screen, but yes, her. So it's just so funny. But
tell me why my first thought was maybe her mom. But I was like, I think maybe she knows a little better. Maybe. But I wasn't positive.
Maybe, yeah.
She probably said it in private, though. She probably said it about some people.
You know, she said it in private because her daughter just thought that was okay to say publicly at a going away party in front of a lot of Black people.
Sorry. Oh, my cheeks hurt.
But I mean, they were her favorite because they didn't come across threatening to her, you know?
Anyway,
Not that they're not amazing, but they didn't, they had a certain, what Laura said, a way of coming across that was more acceptable. So those were her favorite little black girls.
It reminds me of what Trump said at one of his rallies. You take your pick, right? But the one where he was like, I don't remember the guy's name. He was like, hey, my African American. He says this in a stadium. My African American.
That's what it was. That's exactly what that was.
Okay, cool, cool.
Mm-hmm. This is somebody leading the church, y'all. God. Being sent over the water to lead more churches because they're just so great. And this is what they said at their going away party.
Oh, and the country that she went to wasn't third world, I don't believe. So they wouldn't receive special, but those are the type of people that get sent off. Those are the types of people that we're paying for with our 14
those
times.
Those are the types of people who don't get sent to third world. They get sent to nice countries.
That's true too, though.
I said nice. That's bad. But they get sent to first world. Yeah. And get to live in a little bit of luxury because the third world isn't for them. These people who are more royalty, in this system.
Yeah. Anyway. Mm-hmm. All right. So social status, sharp people, sharp in one perspective, a Eurocentric perspective. And I think because we were sharp in that way and played their game, that I wish sometimes I could be in the room when they realized it was us two who put those videos out and that we're still going. And when we're able to combine with people like Tanya, oh my God. Or then even Aaron Cuff, who did our, who came on and talked about spiritual abuse from a licensed mental health professional standpoint. So yeah, I hope I'm not leaving anybody out. But okay, so we're sought out for having charisma, talent, connections, aspiration, but it all has to be used to convert other high performers. And so if you're not completely sucked out of your circle, you need to be schmoozing and rubbing elbows with the other doctors, with the other business people, the other people in government, like just all these people. If you're on campus, the other people who are leading in the extracurriculars on campus. And this is what I was going to say. Oh yeah. Then we got sidetracked by Laura's comment. That there was
in a good way,
in a great way. There was a point in time where we got, at least the leaders, discipled hard for not bringing out more leaders. I wonder if the phrase like sharp people got attacked in 2003 with the Henry Crete letter. Because I'm like, by the time I came around, nobody was using the word sharp, but they were still describing this archetype of sharp. And it was leaders, leader types, influencers before social media influencers was a thing. And we were like criticized for bringing out too many people who were on the fringe. Yeah. And that same leader would say things like, of course, the kingdom is popular to them. It's appealing to them. They would probably have a hard time making friends at all. And here is like a ready-made community, people who are ready to serve them, people who can give them rides. Like a lot of these people ride the bus and they need help from benevolence. Do the work. Why are you guys not being faithful? Are you feeling intimidated? Why are we not bringing out more leaders? And basically being explained to that if we keep bringing out these types of people who were on the fringe, the church could not sustain that because they just need so much help. They need so many handouts. They need too many rides. They need too many people to spot them for lunch. They have all these issues. They have mental health issues. And of course, they just want to use us. They're attracted to us because we're everything they want. We need to do harder work and talk to the leader types, the influential people. Yes, Tiara, the people Jesus spent time with, but he also converted Zacchaeus.
Yeah.
And some other people who were on the council,
Yes.
and stuff like that. So, and what about the women who traveled with Jesus and supported them with their finances, which is crazy because I'm like, that doesn't even equate with the ministry you're talking to, the poor campus ministry. We don't have rich husbands or, most of us wealthy fathers that we can just give all of their money to the church, which you expecting that is even problematic. Hence the topic of this episode, exploitation, all of the indoctrination going toward exploiting people for their gain, their financial gain and their reputational gain. Having people with these types of standings, it gives the ICOC credibility.
Yes. And Dr. Lalich talks about this. If y'all didn't watch my last video, Dr. Lalich is a doctor of sociology and a cult expert who was in a cult herself. And she was like, the goal of a cult is to create deployable agents, people that they can deploy and do their work. Right? Because this issue of actually bringing in the people that Jesus spent time with wouldn't be an issue if they weren't actually just all about people going out recruiting, bringing more people in, going out recruiting, bringing more people in. People who are, I guess, in their definition on the fringe need more help. So you have to actually take time to take care of those in the church who are your sisters and brothers. And we know that that's not
Imagine that.
what we're here for. We're only here to continue to fill the bottom of the triangle, the pyramid. That's what we're here for. We don't have time to take care of people who have needs. That's not it. So when I saw that in her podcast or on her social media channel, I was like, oh my God. It's all about just having more deployable agents, people who have a high socioeconomic status, people who already have cars, people who have a lot of resources. They're ready to be deployed. We don't want to bring in people who are going to take up our time because they need to be taken care of, even though that's what a church community is for. And I stayed there. So if anybody wants to meet me and just beat me up, let me know. Because I am so angry about this. But yeah, that's what they're there for. And I want to be beat up because I listened to this lady say it. So I specifically remember one lesson, sitting in the front row with a certain leader saying this, like, we need to stop bringing these types of people here. And I'm not saying we don't have to love them, but I mean, we need more leaders. We need more of this. And then the insults come, like Nikita said, insults of, are you intimidated by these type of people? What's going on with you and your character that you're not reaching out to these people? It was just an attack. And I never understood that before until I heard Dr. Lalich talk about they need deployable agents. That's it. And not everybody's going to be one, but that is the goal. So yeah, it is sad and hurtful.
And it's like not just your current status, but if they perceive that you could be important or sharp or influential in the future. And I think that's where the campus conversions come in, or even like the I can't think of the adjective that I'm looking for, but like kind of well-groomed and moldable teens to continue to be raised up, kind of as like the apple of the fellowship's eye,
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not only looking at what you've got right now, but who could you be, who could you know, who could you impress.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times my ex was sought out. People had like heat seeker eyes on him because he's a conventionally attractive guy. Prides himself in dressing well. Yeah. At that time was a teacher in the public schools, middle school, and then also for a while was a teen leader. So he still kind of had his hand on the youth culture, and rocked an earring, sometimes would get cool parts in his hair, but like was, before he dropped out to serve the church more, which he was never really paid for,
Mhm.
was in a PhD program for medical physics. So also very intellectual. So what you want?
Yeah.
You got a guy who plays basketball, send him his way. You got a guy who likes hip hop, send him his way.
Yeah.
You got a guy who's in a PhD program and has done all these internships around the country and is
Mhm.
published. Hey, so is this guy, send him his way.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, exploited because dropped out of the PhD program, and he's, you know, happy with the way his life has turned out.
Yes.
But that is not the issue.
Yeah.
That is not the issue. If there was not this influence, it would not have happened. Like, he has a good job that he loves, and so and is growing, has a trajectory there. But that's not the point. It's not the point.
It's not the sticking point,
Francesca. This is the sticking point, Francesca. Dropped out to serve the ministry, but the ministry never paid him. The ministry didn't get him that job.
No.
The ministry didn't say, hey, for the next 6 months, let me subsidize your pay cut that you took to serve us, even a
Yeah.
fraction of it.
Yeah.
Like, but then wanted to exploit his talents, his appearance, his everything
Yeah.
to pour in to people who were coming out and be like, hey, we're cool, we're relatable.
Exactly.
People like this guy love it here.
Mhm.
People like this guy found a wife here. People like this guy have awesome friends and they hang out here.
And it had nothing to do with his church. He did all that despite. So many people are doing things despite the church. I remember I've talked about this before, how, you know, undergrad was a blur. I was 100% just exploited, just working for the church, had no idea what I was going to do. Mentioned earlier, you know, me and my other friend just really struggling how we're going to make it. We're so grateful to be able to house sit for somebody and have free rent. And then I finally was like, no, this is not it. And I decided to go back to school, but kept it a secret. Every time I went back to school, it was a secret. And, you know, people would find out, you know, and be like, and I was like, I'm just going to have to take the L. The L meaning I won't be considered doing so well for a time. But then later on, when I got a good career and even, you know, decided to teach in higher education, they were like, what? Wow, so you're a professor? That's amazing, you know? And now they're like, can you share your testimony at Women's Day?
The fact that I had to hide from you guys?
Yeah. So it's like, now you've achieved something that we can use to exploit, to show that you got all this stuff, you've overcome so much, Asha. Oh my gosh, you know, get on stage and talk about it, bring glory to this organization, when in fact so much of it was done in spite of them, in fear of them, feeling so insecure about my choices. And it's disgusting.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
On that note, moving on to something else that is disgusting.
Oh.
Next is,
oh no,
dating culture, and specifically,
I need a beer.
Specifically encouragement dating.
Yeah.
And so, for anyone who's not familiar, encouragement dating is basically forced dating. You're forced to go on dates with people. Okay, I should have written this out. So because they basically tell you cannot go on dates with anybody who's not a member of the church. They say you can't go on dates with anybody who's not a disciple, but they have to be the judge of who's a disciple. So say that you clicked with somebody that you met out in the wild. You know, they'd probably have to meet with the powers that be several times and go through all the studies to see if they really believe all the exact same things, which is very unlikely. So you do the math. You can't really go on dates with anybody who is not a member of this church. And so because of that, the pool is very small. The pool is very small. And so when you have a bunch of single people, this is LOL the wild. When you have a bunch of single people who naturally, most people, some people are not interested, but a lot of people are interested in hanging out and trying to form romantic connections and things like that. So to prevent people from just jumping ship, they have what is called encouragement dates, where your brothers and sisters plan dates to take each other out on. And this could be with someone that you are interested in romantically, but 99% of the time, it's someone that you're not interested in romantically. And there's a possibility that you don't even really enjoy their company as a friend that much. But if you get asked, you basically have to say yes, or you get discipled for being ungrateful and selfish. And even if you're busy, don't just say no, offer another day. Offer another day that you are free to go. So that's the premise of what encouragement dating is. I remember explaining it to my dad when I first got baptized, and he was like, "So just a hangout?" I was so offended. No, daddy, it's a date. But just like, it makes no sense. It makes no sense because it makes no sense. Like, he basically, it was, so you just hang out with a group of, no, daddy, it's an encouragement date. Anyway, Ashley, you want to talk about how that's exploitation? I gave all the definition. I feel like I'm talking a lot.
So this is another thing that one of my other friends who had this revelation and called me up was talking about. She was like, wow, have you thought about how messed up it is that we were forced to go on these encouragement dates? We were literally going on dates with people we would have never gone on dates with outside of this church. She was like, I know there are people who I gave tons of time to who I just wasn't interested in. And I was made to feel like it was my godly duty to go on dates with these people. And there are people outside of this organization who I probably actually really connected with, and I'm not allowed to go on dates with them. Like, have you thought about that? She's like, and again, thinking back to us being these young college girls, and particularly back during our campus time, at certain points, there were a lot of brothers, but then you might be asked to go on a date by someone who could be 5-10 years older than you in the singles ministry. And you just have to go because it's your job to make sure everyone in this organization is encouraged. And somebody put this up here that it is a form of grooming, and I know that can sound heavy, but it is. Even if it's not grooming in like any type of sexual way, you're supposed to bleep out certain words for YouTube. It's grooming in the continual pattern of this organization, in that pretty much the standard for everyone as part of this organization is your comfort, your choices that you're allowed to make, the things you want, the things you actually like. Those things don't matter. You are to deny yourself. The more you're doing things that you don't actually want to do, the more godly you are. This is just another level of that, getting you used to giving beyond your boundaries, giving beyond what it is you actually want to do, making it commonplace for you to be a person who has to continually encourage others, find ways to do that despite what everything in your brain is telling you. That's what was happening a lot with these dates. Your time and your energy were being put out here in a way to keep this organization going, keep the circular thinking going, keeping this self-sealing system going, because you need to encourage everybody. You need to no longer, consider yourselves whatsoever. You're here for others. And it was just another form of that, another form of grooming. And I think about it now, and it's just so awful. Now, did I go on fun dates? Obviously. I married somebody in the church, and so in an organization, in any cult, there's obviously fun that's mixed up and stuff. That's how they keep you. But there was a dynamic in this whole encouragement dating system that was a part of the mind control, a part of the ideology.
Sorry.
So yeah. Well, you just reading the.
Well, I was reading, but I was also just really looking at Nancy's little thumbnail here.
Yes.
Because I'm like, she said they weren't asking her out. So that, I don't know if you guys saw me pout, but I was like, that's sad. But then at the end, she's like, I got flowers once a week and all the good presents. I'm like, and that's the best. Like, you could do it yourself. Out. But then I wanted to look in on that thumbnail, because also, yuck, there was a specific prototype of the sister that was popular to be taken out too. And while, unfortunately, Nancy doesn't kind of fit that archetype, girl, you are gorgeous.
Absolutely,
like
gorgeous.
What? That's why I'm like, let me see that little thumb.
So beautiful.
Yeah. And it just makes me, because then it makes you just feel like you said, like something's wrong with you. But girl, I think you were just extra loved and extra protected in the spiritual realm.
Were.
Because be great. Like, did you watch our marriage live? Be grateful. You were spared. You were spared. And I think God, or whatever, you believe is at work here, knew that all of that beauty would be, like, your little fire would be snuffed out. So just be great. I think I wasn't spiritual enough. No, you had too many opinions, probably.
Okay. Not being spiritual enough in ICOC
as a woman
means having opinions. It means not going along with it. And from what I remember, Nancy, you're someone who was converted as an adult, as a single. So you questioned them. You lucky woman. You had questions. You said, I don't know about that. And what happened? You got labeled. So that's what this brings me to. That's what this brings me to, because I think that that's probably what really happened with Nancy.
See? When you know, you know.
That's probably what really happened more so with Nancy. So first of all, there's this grooming process with the dating, making sure you continue to deny yourself, constantly getting you accustomed to being put into situations that you don't necessarily want to be in, but making that the norm. And then the whole dating thing becomes a whole other system of control, in that you get punished by not being someone who gets to go on dates when you're not falling in line. So see that? See how that works?
You need to repent. Your character, you need to change your character.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they would even talk about people's physical appearance, and you need to change that. How out of line. But then did you talk about how it could be difficult for the guys?
Not yet. I saw this and I was like, yes.
So, but then on the flip side, the guys were always told, and I remember being in mixed company lessons, and brothers, why aren't you taking the sisters out on dates?
Yeah.
You need to, plan a picnic. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be this or that. But like, it's still money, and it's still time, and it's still effort. And then I can't imagine the vulnerability and insecurity that, like, do you want to be and I don't think that as the sisters we were talking about brothers who were doing low money dates. Like, that was, so just so you guys know, at least for us, I can't recall ever sitting around and having a discussion. The brother only spent $5. Like, can you believe we had dollar store snack? Like, we were never that. I think we were more annoyed. Like, can you believe he asked me on Wednesday what I was doing Saturday morning? Asking me last minute, like things, like little things that felt like they were inconsiderate or rushed. However, being older and being able to see it from the other side, it's like you don't necessarily want to do that, but you also have leaders breathing down your neck to make sure the dates are happening. I'm sure you don't want to hear, why don't you have a date this Saturday? So when you see the sisters, it's like, better ask somebody on a date. Bro, what can we plan real quick?
Yeah.
So it's just unfair all around. And then I do remember hearing from guys who were, more my friends at the time. So you could just be honest about stuff. We would be on date, and it still felt kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, you're my friend, but I'm one of these people you're taking on a date. But they would tell me like, yeah, I just started planning dates of things that I like to do, because the sisters don't always seem grateful. And sometimes they don't have good attitudes when they're here, and it's not fun, but we have to take people out on dates. So now I plan to go see movies I want to see, or I plan to go do things I like to do. And it's a no-win. It's a no-win. The women do not want to be there because we're tired or we're not interested, but we feel like we have to be there. But then the guys don't want to be there because they're feeling the energy. And even if it's not about, maybe we are just tired. We're all so tired, right? But they're being forced to take us and told that we're going to be, no, dang. I believe it though. I mean, you had that debt from Special.
Yes. Yes.
So it's just a no, it's a instead of encouragement dates, it was just a circle of discouragement, and we were all doing our best.
Yes.
But the dating, just to keep people locked in and roped in, so that way we wouldn't go and find true happiness with someone who might actually like us.
Yeah. Because that's not the goal.
If somebody likes you too much, you might kiss them.
Yeah.
And you know what happens when you kiss? Penetration.
You die.
Automatically. You are overcome with lust. You have no self-control. It will end in penetration.
And I think as a grander scheme too of why you're not allowed to date someone you like. And that's because sometimes, and we probably see this with our children, the exploitation we went through, cleaning people's houses, being forced to go on encouragement dates and all that stuff, the brothers being forced to take sisters out on dates using their credit cards, that stuff made sense to us when we were young and vulnerable. However, when I think about my kids, I want to pew somebody in the face. You know what I'm saying? So that none of that makes sense anymore. When I think about someone I truly care about, like my children, none of that makes sense anymore. Now, so when you start dating someone who truly likes you, they might actually look at you and get offended by the exploitation. It opens up your mind. If I really like you and care about you, I might start to say something's wrong with this place.
Oh, my boyfriend at the time was pissed. Like, he thought it was weird. He thought some of the stuff I was coming back with was weird. But then when I came back and was like, we can't kiss anymore. Oh, he was hot. And it was just on the phone at this time. We were in the same state. Then we, for college, like moved. His family, military, moved away, and then I moved away. We were on the phone. And he was like, what the heck? Like, it probably wasn't heck, he said. But he was like, I was with you with this. Blah, blah. But now I cannot even kiss my girlfriend. And I was like, because then what they tell you is, well, when I'm kissing you, I'm not thinking about like, now I feel like I should be beat up. It's so embarrassing.
I know, I can't even look at you. No, I'm just kidding.
When I'm kissing you, I'm not thinking about your soul. I'm not thinking about how to get you to heaven. Which is so crazy, because now that I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I wasn't always thinking about like taking his clothes off either. Like, we hadn't even had sex.
Exactly.
Like, we hadn't, but the way that they're questioning, well, what are you thinking about? Is there tongue involved? Are you thinking about the Bible and his salvation when his tongue is in your mouth? And then all of a sudden you're just like, oh my God. Oh
Mhm.
my God, I'm gonna send him to hell.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes.
But now that I think back, I'm like, we had dated for like months and months, and we hadn't even like done anything beyond that. But oh, so I remember even too, at the little Bible study that we were talking about it, I
Mhm.
was so proud of myself because I wasn't a virgin at that time. But I was like, oh, we haven't had sex. And they were like, well, or do you think you're pure? And I was like, I mean, I would say it's like PG 13. And when I said PG 13, y'all, there were like 4 ladies around the table. They literally went, and I just was like, I did it because it's literally 13, PG 13. I was like, in my head, I have said something clearly. My holiness barometer is off. You would have thought I said we made and published indecent videos together in our spare time. That was our form of fun.
Girl, it's PG, parental guidance.
And 13. Literally, they went,
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
And so I went back. They had convinced me that this was shameful and evil and the highway to hell. And all this was connected. You said if someone who loved you. So yeah, when I told him, he was like,
and I'm talking about even people in the church, because you notice you're only supposed to marry a disciple. However, even that's controlled, because they don't really want you with someone even in the church who might actually put you before the church. Spoiler alert for the video that's coming. You know, that even that we're watching that. We don't want y'all getting too close. What Nancy said, I had put the her comment up there. She was told not to talk to her boyfriend too much, right? He might begin to care about her more than he cares about this organization. He might actually start to see that my girlfriend is not being treated well by this organization. This might actually cause me to stand up and say some things. They never wanted people getting too close, even friends. Even friends, you know, like your besties, but y'all just get together and hang out and do fun stuff. What spiritual stuff are y'all doing together? They want to see that you truly are a deployable agent. We don't want anything getting in the way of you understanding that your first responsibility is being a deployable agent for this organization, and that's it. Yeah.
and yes, Cheryl, that's so that way they could announce it on the altar.
Yes.
And you could look good for them that your first kiss happened right there. Just the way that they are so intimately involved in things that should be intimate with you and your partner, it's completely out of line. So yes, that's dating. Young people, single people, their time, energy, and affections exploited to keep others anchored to this organization. Absolutely disgusting. Let's see. Okay, next on the roster, exploitation of hopes and dreams, which we've kind of been talking about here. So I know, did we both just disassociate?
We both did. I'm like, you start. Ooh, look at this one. Yeah. I remember that, Taylor. Yeah, because
I've heard of that. I'm surprised that my bestie and I never had to, but I think it's because we were both so deeply indoctrinated.
That's what it was. You and your bestie were deployable agents together.
And we were always like, she was on one campus and I was doing another, and then she led one singles Bible talk and I led the others. So even though we were roomies and we did lots of stuff together, I guess we were just busy little bees.
You were busy for the kingdom. So they left you alone.
I guess. Because we were super, super tight. But I'm like, I guess we didn't spend a ton of time. And it always worked out because we lived together. Right, but y'all didn't spend like time. Not during the day, just at night. Yeah. That sounds bad. Or not bad, not bad. It sounds suggestive. But it wasn't.
Yeah.
Said
we was wilding.
Yeah, I can see that.
Y'all were actually just having fun, like two single girls should. And
I can imagine. I never really got to witness your shenanigans, but just kind of knowing you two, I wish I had been there. I feel like that. No, I would have ruined it.
You
I
would
would
have
have
discipled
discipled you,
them.
and that would have been lame, and then we might not be friends today. So,
Yeah.
but me today wishes I could have seen it.
Yeah.
I was a
I saw
handler.
it. That was me, and so somebody that I need to reach out to that I dissociate just thinking about. Even right now, I can't talk. I was very close to my friend Dominique, and yeah, yeah, people got in the middle of that. We're cliquey. She's not doing well. Blah 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 blah. Do you actually challenge her spiritually? Are y'all just sin buddies? Things like
That
that.
phrase, I forgot about that
Yeah,
phrase.
sin buddies.
Sin buddies was such a popular phrase.
Yeah.
We should get t-shirts.
Yes, we gotta get shirts that say sin buddies. We're gonna make sin buddy merch.
One day.
Put it in the description. Yeah. And I still have a lot of moral injury from that, a lot of guilt. I love that word now. Dr. Lalich gave me that word.
Moral injury.
I
need to start watching some of her stuff.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, we tried to move on. Here we go. Oh yeah, that's why I look at the title again. I'm like,
Exploitation of hopes and dreams. So yeah, how you segueing into this?
I mean, I already cried about this on the married one. So the first thing on the list is, let's take it back to how they get you in the first place, right? Is they make you feel like this is your one-stop shop. Like this place, this organization is everything you've ever wanted. It has great friendships. It has the potential for a wonderful family unit. Look how amazing and happy and functional and healthy the families are here. The marriages. We have a marrieds retreat every year, and the marrieds always cheer for it. It's so awesome. When you love God more than you love each other. The children are respectful. Let's see, a professional network. It's been said often, we have everything we need in the kingdom. There are doctors, mechanics, contractors, therapists, hairstylists, teachers, tutors, chefs. We have everything you could possibly need. People with homes that you can stay in different cities and different countries. Why would you need to go anywhere else? And then, of course, the cherry on top, like salvation. Yes. So there's all these things that you want, and when you believe that it's actually of God and that everyone really has this pure heart, you believe there's nothing to fear. Yeah. And that this is really good. And aren't we so lucky that we found it? And so when someone believes that all of these things are happening here, and the only reason I don't have it, it must be because I'm not doing something right. There's something I need to repent of. I'm not investing in my friendships the right way. I'm not loving my spouse the right way, or holding them accountable the right way, or involving enough outside people to support us the right way. This has to work. It has to work. Lord, I've seen what you've done for others. It has to work. The problem is me. Why my friendships aren't good. Why I can't get a job. We have so many people in the kingdom with so many jobs. I just must not be networking the right way. Yeah. I must not have enough faith. Look at all these other people who serve God and have these big houses. And so you just keep working because you think, and it does remind me of an MLM in that way, where you think like, it's here. I see the people winning the car. I see the people winning the bracelet. I see the people winning the trips. I see the people growing their downlines, baptizing so many people. It must, my quiet time must not be long enough. I must not be confessing often enough. I must not hate my sin enough. I must not be sacrificial to my leaders or my spouse enough. I must, you fill in the blank. I see it all. It was promised to me and I see it. But what you see is everybody else faking and pretending as well. Honestly, when you really get to know what's going on and peek behind the curtain.
Yes.
But what you
Yes.
see is the shiny veneer. And so it exploits people's dreams. And so I actually had a woman come into my DMs recently. I love when you guys slide in my DMs. It's so fun. And she said, "Hey, I'm actually one of those rebellious, headstrong HU sisters that you were warned about." And so I don't know if you've heard about that from my other videos, but again, the exploitation of hopes and dreams. So obviously, I'm a young woman. I want to get married. I broke up with someone to join this cult, so they know I want a relationship. I would confess about different guys that I liked or whatever. And so something they would use was, "Oh, well, all the women at this campus before you, they were so opinionated and hard to lead, and now they're all still single. They were just so headstrong and hard to lead. They're still single." And so they would dangle that. "Nikita, you want to get married one day. You want someone to date you, don't you? You need to do a better job at making sure your leader feels like he's a good leader. Don't criticize so often. Don't take charge. The other women who were in this Bible talk on this campus before you," because again, it's an HBCU, a bunch of Black women who now we know is the most educated, most agreed demographic in the United States. I also believe Black women make up the largest percentage of people who are starting small businesses. These are those types of women. It's like, don't be like them. Don't look at them. Meanwhile, a lot of them are married now. Not that that is a marker of success, because I'm all 4B movement. If you don't know about that, go Google the 4B movement. But anyway, marriage is not a marker of success necessarily.
Not
but they
at
knew
all.
that that's what I want. At that stage in my life, I viewed that as success. And they would exploit that. "Nikita, if that's what you want, you need to not be so headstrong. You need to, be willing to repent, learn how to be gentle and quiet, have a sweet, gentle, quiet spirit."
And what you don't realize is that that shiny veneer you were talking about, it's all fake. And the reason certain people have certain things literally has nothing to do with this organization, or it's because the just the way the game is played, it's a loaded deck. Is that a word? Is that a phrase? It's loaded. The game, yeah,
Like it's rigged.
it's rigged. That's the word I was looking for.
You might be right though.
The game is the dice are loaded. That's what it was. The dice are loaded. The game is rigged. It's all rigged. So you're not. They make it seem like there are these clear-cut rules, and it's not.
Yeah,
it's
not.
always changing. The story is always changing. The truth is always changing. The path is always changing depending on who's on it. The goalpost is always moving.
And when,
Yes.
like your degree.
Yeah.
You couldn't get the degree, but after you
No.
got the degree, now we want you to share your testimony.
Exactly. That's how it is. I mean, it was always different, always changing. And so, but they continue to exploit it. And I mentioned this in the last video, you're in this circular thinking. This church, well, the Bible is the word of God. This church teaches the word of God. So I must stay faithful. Well, first, the Bible is the word of God. It saves me from hell. This church is the only one that teaches the Bible, so I must stay faithful. So even though the goalpost is always moving, you find a way to make it okay because you're stuck in the circle because you can't get out. You can't get out. You're stuck. So you're like, well, maybe I just misunderstood. There's something wrong with me. That's what happens in cults. You first turn inward and say, what's wrong with me that these things aren't working out? Because I see it working for other people. And just like in an MLM, yep, it keeps you working hard. That moving goalpost just keeps you working harder. That's what happens in an MLM. It's the same thing. It's all a lie. It's all a facade. But one thing that they both have in common is they keep you working very hard. Very hard. Yep. And here you go. The rules don't work. This person says, I followed them all and was still single. I'm so sorry. The answer was, it's not God's will for you to be married. So I'm trying not to pick up my cup here and chuck it at the window because this is my house. I don't want to break the window, but I want to break the window. That's stuff that happens to me a lot. And so here, here, I know I need my plastic water bottle so I can throw it against the wall. And this is what happens. This is what happens. You follow all the rules, and they can't. They can't. It's so funny. I'm doing this thing. My students say every time you get stressed out, Professor Glenn, we know because you start rubbing your hand. And I just started doing. I tried not to. Okay.
You're self-soothing.
I'm self-soothing. So it can't be that there's anything wrong with our system. It's nothing wrong with us. This is perfect. And it's definitely not that you need to go outside of this system and find a spouse. That's definitely not it either.
No.
So it must just be
8
that
billion people in the world.
Yeah.
Your spouse can't be out there.
It can't be out there. It must be that Jesus just wants you all to himself. That
you
is
have the gift.
Crazy. You have the gift. That's what they tell people. They have made up this thing, called the gift because of something Paul said, that he was single. That he was given the gift of singleness. So now this is a spiritual discipline, I guess. And they like to throw that out at people. Oh my God. Exactly. How do they know God's will? Oh, but they will say they know God's will. Absolutely. I am so sorry. Yep. Because you were exploited. They cannot. What is that? That's right. You don't have no doggone gift. Get out of here. And so many people spend so much time in this church following these rules, only to get out and realize, wow, it was just wasted time. They exploited our hopes and dreams, told us that we could find them in there, which had us being dragged along for years, working really hard to get this dream, to get this grand, future that they promised. That was all a lie. And I must listen. Just wait till you see this lesson that I'm about to do next, okay? It's like I feel like I'm doing a promo for a future lesson.
Well, now you got to do it, Asha. You can't take 2 months to put it out.
No, it's got to be probably by the end of next week.
Ooh. Can you commit to that?
Let's see if you want to be married in this church.
Well, she knows she don't want to be married in the church.
I know, but not you, but like, listen. I know that there was so much time that was wasted. There's so much of your hopes and dreams that were exploited. But you could be lucky.
And this one here, totally exploited. I had so many opportunities to date some great women. They were constantly put blockers, including sharing my past mistakes.
That's what they do. So listen. Ooh, I'm so mad. What is this called? What is this one called? The system of punishment. Punishment. I talk about that in the last thing, how cults, damage people. It's kind of like they threaten you. And for you, it was more so blacklisting you for probably not following some rules. You seem like somebody who probably questions some stuff, which I think is amazing, by the way. So what they do is they blacklist you for not following the rules. And, it's just, That's what they do.
And so for me, if anyone has noticed, I've just kind of been just very quiet and not even facially very expressive through this whole conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And just reading you guys' comments. Sorry, I'm about to cry again.
She a Cancer, y'all. I'm so sorry.
Honestly, the only sentence, I feel like the sentiment that just keeps coming to my mind for maybe like the last 8 or 9 months is like, sorry. We are real people.
Yeah.
These are real people's lives.
That you're playing with.
I think, was it when a scammer calls who said their parents passed away and didn't get to see them get married? That's a real thing. That's a real grief. That's a real hurt. DW not being married and being gaslit and told she has, it's just not God's will, the gift, and made to just accept that. Like, if that was my gift, wouldn't I be happy about it?
Exactly.
In some way, wouldn't I ever get there? Like, what? The ultimate just shut down. Like, real people's lives, real people's lineages. And I think what's upsetting is there are just so many people in the world. There's so many people in the world that, like, okay, yes, not everyone ends up with someone. I think we hear the popular adage, the dating pool has pee in it. It is what it is. But I think we can all agree there is something so much more different and sweeter, even about hardship or mistakes, when it's on your terms.
Yeah.
This is something I chose, or I can look back and kind of see what happened along the way, or this guy didn't work, or this guy didn't. You can't get those years back and wonder what would have happened if I was able to explore this with that person or with that person. What if I wanted to eventually choose to be by myself? But it's because of what happened. Like, now we could just never know when we're in this situation that we didn't choose. I think that is what can drive you crazy. Like, I'm in this situation and I didn't even choose to be here. And again, just the fact that, like, we're real people and they just treat us like pawns.
Yeah.
Like another
Yes.
cog in the machine.
Just pawns, exactly.
We're disposable.
Disposable.
Like, it's not a big deal. You were just another Bible Talk member. You were just another tither.
Yes.
You were just another name on the roster, another prayer on the weak and struggling list. And now Asha and I are just two more disgruntled, bitter people who make videos. They don't take us seriously. But we never made these for them. We made them for you guys.
Yep.
We made them for you guys. We made them
Yep.
not even necessarily for us. I think we would have been content to stay.
Even though this is healing for me. Thank you guys.
It has become very healing, very fun. We love you guys, like, in a, the way that we can love you in this, like, we've come to feel like you are our community. It's fun hanging out like this. But initially, we just wanted to tell you all, you're not crazy. This really happened. But we know we're just two more bitter, disgruntled people who make videos. We're not important to them.
Yeah.
We're not important to them.
Yeah.
And none of us were ever important to them. Meanwhile, there are people who don't have kids who wanted kids. There are people who don't have spouses who wanted the chance. People who didn't get to experience the level of romantic affection and intimacy, not even sexual intimacy, just emotional, relational intimacy, even physical intimacy without the sex part. And that's stolen from us, and they don't care.
They don't care.
A lot of them probably don't even remember a lot of our names.
Yeah.
Because we were just another person on the D tree.
Yep.
The discipling tree. The pyramid.
Yep.
So anyway, so lastly, exploitation of goodwill, which kind of, it goes hand in hand bit with the hopes and dreams.
That's it.
But we touched on this initially, where we want to do well. We're not trash people, right? I don't think anybody who sees Jesus's message and says, I want to do that, is a trash person.
Oh, no.
You want to serve the least of these. You want to bring heaven and truth and integrity here. This joy, this community you found, the way that they love bomb you and make you feel accepted and like you have a purpose, you want to share that same feeling with others. And so because we have that desire not only to share that with people, but also to please God, because The flip side of that is, yes, you get to do this, but if you don't, you go to hell. Like there's that fear of hell. You can get people to do anything. You can get people to do anything. And again, Asha talked about that in her solo video, where it's like, yeah, people can say, well, why did you stay? No one like held that up to your head. Not sure what we can say and not have our little monetization taken away. But nobody, did that to you. But Asha, talks through a lot of the psychology and has a lot of sources if you haven't watched it. And it is actually able to prove that in a lot of ways it was worse, though, what was done to us. Oh my God, yes, the what ifs are so heartbreaking and you can't know. You can't know. But anyway, yeah, so you love God, you'll do anything since you actually believe it's what he wants and you actually believe that you could face eternal torment if you don't do it.
Yeah.
They could tell you to do anything.
Yeah.
I can't even think of some of the absurd things we were told. Well, I mean, we talked about them. Cleaning your leader's house.
Yeah.
Like, if you are feeling sad or tired, or even if you're feeling offended by your Bible talk leader or your ministry leader, the advice is, well, when's the last time you served them?
Yeah.
When's the last time you made them a meal or offered to fold their laundry? And then you would do it. Like that doesn't make sense, does it? No, it doesn't. I'm gonna answer for you. It doesn't make sense. But we would do it because we thought, okay, well, he who refreshes others will himself be refreshed. That's the scripture. And I love God. And maybe I am thinking too much about myself. I need to see to it daily that my brothers and sisters are encouraged, not see to it daily that I am encouraged. I'm so focused on myself. I need to focus on them. And yes, my treasure is in heaven. Even if I'm miserable right now and nobody knows what I'm doing and I'm not getting recognition for it right now, I'll just keep doing it because my stack of treasure in heaven is going to be so big. I do so many things nobody thanks me for. I'm suffering so bad. God sees it. And it's going to be so great. So when you're tired, when you're sick, those who had chronic illness or went on to develop chronic illness, you would just push through. And then even having to say uncomfortable things that could ruin your relationships with people. I know further up, we didn't put it on the screen at the time, but like just asking people, asking members, asking strangers about their masturbation habits. But you must, like, if I were to have a discipling time with someone, or if I were to lead a Bible study with someone, and I didn't ask about it explicitly, if I didn't make it awkward and uncomfortable enough, I would get in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
I would be told that I need to make them feel the shame that they should feel because it is disgusting, and we need to help them feel that in front of God.
See their sin, really see it.
They're comfortable because it happens in the dark, but they need to see how disgusting it really is laid before the light of God. And then again, if we would not go there or not ask in enough detail, we are discipled and we are in trouble. And so then what did we do? We eventually just became the person who would do it.
Yeah.
Why? Because you convinced us that this is how we're going to help them get their best relationship with God.
Yeah.
We don't want to keep them from salvation because of our uncomfortable feelings.
I remember feeling so terrible. I was talking with someone who left who was in my Bible talk that I discipled, studied the Bible with. Sierra, I think is your cousin. If you I think you to Sierra, that's cousin was in my Bible talk. Okay. We were hanging out the other day last weekend and it's just so weird. So I remember this is when I'm in a Mary's Bible Talk. It's later, the last few years of me being a member. And this is when I started to feel like it feels awkward pushing these things that were pushed on to me onto these adults who have lives, who have kids. I see them as people, right? I'm starting to become disillusioned. And then I had my little mental break. One of many, one of the first ones. We stepped down as Bible Talk leaders, and then her and her husband stepped up as Bible Talk leaders. And when they went into leaders meeting and they learned what was really happening in this church, the levels of control, the way you were supposed to tell people's business in the leaders meeting, and the gaslighting, and how they were called to disrespect people's boundaries. They were like, "Oh no, thank you. We don't want this." And it makes me feel good now, because to a certain extent they were protected from what this church really did. They were only in my Bible Talk the whole time they were a part of the church. And they were like, "Asha, did you know that blah, blah, blah?" And they were telling me all this stuff. And they were like, "We don't want that." And they just stepped down from being Bible Talk leaders. And so, of course, we're talking about it now. Now I feel good. But I was telling her, I was like, "Do you know, I felt like such a failure. Like I had failed because I had not indoctrinated y'all enough. That you didn't understand how this works." I felt like, what a sorry excuse for a leader of God, that I didn't push onto you, make you feel bad enough, make you understand that this is what being a disciple is. I felt so depressed and sad. Like I just didn't get it. I've been here for, almost 20 years, and I still am not a good leader because you think it's okay, to say no to them. And she was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I felt bad about that. I felt terrible about that." So anyway, that just goes along with what you were just saying.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Let's see. I personally knew a couple who led a whole church in another country, literally risked their lives for years, lived in poverty, and barely made it. Jeez. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's intense.
Yeah.
It's intense.
Mm-hmm.
The things that are done. And because people want to serve God, and when you're indoctrinated well enough, you really, really believe that's what you're doing. Like I know this one couple who has 3 young children, and they, Lord, in like a 7-year span, how many times did they move?
Girl, I don't know.
I feel like at least 4 times.
The lost count.
At least 4 times.
At
least 4 times in like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And their kids were like, what, like 11 and younger?
Mm-hmm.
I know the oldest was he a teen when they left, or a preteen?
Preteen.
He was just so tall. But anyway, well, these weren't special leaders.
I think she's talking about Laura's.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why are they living in poverty?
Hey, Brianna.
That's what I was saying earlier. Certain people live in poverty and are called to suffer for the kingdom. But other people, somehow, that's just not a part of the deal for them.
Maybe they just don't have the aesthetic. They wouldn't be successful preaching the gospel there.
Yeah.
You want to go where you fit, the message, which doesn't make sense to me, because I do remember being in campus and this one white male leader was preaching, and he talked about how they sent him to like the hood somewhere in California. And I don't remember the rest of the lesson. I'm sure if I went back, it was extremely problematic. But I was a campus student at the time. I remember feeling endeared to him because of what he shared. and how he was like, I don't know anything about this lifestyle. I think, did he say like he was the only white person there or one of the only white people? And so to spend time with his ministry, he like learned how to take a sister's braids out and like all this stuff. And so it just makes me think that like, how did he end up there? He was white. How did he end up there? Like, was he still trying to like earn his stripes or something? Like, sir, how did you wind up? What did you say that got you sent to the hood?
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, that happened a lot too, because they didn't really want too many, minorities leading. It
Well,
had
that's
to
true
be
too.
a white person
But
leading.
I just wonder what like distinguishes between like, how do you decide which ones go to the hood?
I get what you're saying. Yeah,
because the other leader who got sent,
he wasn't
away,
a kingdom kid. He wasn't a kingdom kid. That's
there
how
it
you know.
is.
Bam, bam, bam. If your parents are leaders or elders in the church,
there it is.
You ain't
there it is.
You ain't going to the hood. But if you want,
I'm sure he was praying hard. I'm sure he was praying hard. Because listen, I don't know if I could go. I'm just kidding.
Yep. Taylor said, "Say it, black." You want black people leading like that, you gotta be you gotta be a football player. You were from, or
why are there so many black evangelists who were college football players?
Yeah, because they were sharp. Okay.
Listen to the lessons. They are not that sharp.
So when we talk about sharp, it is in
appearances
of a certain demographic, but for black men, it's sports. It's sports. It is sports. Mm-hmm. You might get a few lawyers or doctors in there, maybe an engineer, but it's sports. That's the type of black men they want. I remember seeing that a lot.
I can think of so many conference lessons that I heard preached by black men, and they were all former college football players.
Mm-hmm. All. Like the last marriage retreat, he was a football player. And they will tell you those glory day stories every single time they are put on a stage. That's how I know, because he sat there and told how he was a football player.
It was his conversion story was so long. It had nothing to do with his actual lesson.
Oh, yeah. Yes, stereotypes. Yep. The ones who look like they can take a punch.
A literal.
I think these people understand psychology, the types of Black people that white people respect are sports people. Not all, but that's kind of like a standard thing. Those are the Black men who are accepted into the demographic they think is important. Football players. So they're all football players. It is wild. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I posted a short recently. Okay, let me just be very transparent. What I was just thinking was, I hate when they let stupid people talk a lot. And I don't mean stupid as in uneducated. I mean like uninformed and makes no sense. So I don't know if any of y'all saw one of my recent like TikToks or shorts, but it was basically me saying like, some people just be saying stuff. They say stuff. There's no facts. There's no cohesion. It's just saying stuff. And then what makes me so mad, having been raised by a narcissistic mom, and then in this cult, getting sucked into this cult right after, a lot of times in my life, these are people who have been in charge of me.
It's true.
But then when I ask questions, I'm disrespectful. I'm rude. I'm unsubmissive. I'm a smart aleck. But then like you get away and like all of us here, we're looking and we're like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But like, and I've had to, but then don't let my face look like this while they're talking. No, I have to be happy about listening to them say stuff. Mm-hmm. And they just be saying stuff. Shut up. Just shut up. And it's not always, sometimes it's people that you are trying to be friends with. And then after you talk to them for a while, you realize, I don't like listening to you, because where is this going? And what are you talking about? And this doesn't match what you just said 2 weeks. And so I think it's like it goes deeper because of the decades, the 3 decades that I have spent having to give credit to these people. So it's just a really
I'm just coming apart. I'm just
like having to listen to these people. So when we just talk about it, and then you just get to the part, like, I think what tipped me over the edge, because literally, y'all, and I was searching for marriage lessons to use in clips for our marriage live. And here's why there weren't any. Because they were boring AF, or there was no plot line, or like, what are you talking? I couldn't even use it for our live, y'all, because they were given the platform to talk about marriage. But they weren't talking about anything, and I wasn't going to get on here and bore y'all. And
Nikita be like, I'm bored out of my mind.
I couldn't. It was so boring. We couldn't even talk about it with you. I was like, we just gonna have to get on here and tell them what it is, because these lessons are terrible. We will get no views. You guys will stop watching. It was anyway, so it just pisses me off.
I'm just laughing because Nikita she was like, and you know what else? Why are these stupid people talking to me? I mean, that's what I heard. Like, you just like, I can't take it anymore.
And so then so if y'all have seen any of the group chat gym videos that I post, and they're typically Asha's. And that's because Asha can go on these long tangents about concepts. When I have these moments, there are so many names. There are so many names. I'm like, none of my content is usable for the internet. So I'm like, and this person. And then when I said that,
just shut up. I do have one clip I'm gonna show y'all. So my favorite thing, I don't know if I told you this, my favorite thing is when in the chat when Nikita gets really mad, especially when she's in the car. She'll be like, and they just won't. And then she grabs her steering wheel, she just like this. She's like, it just shut up. I'll be like really feeling the comments, like, yeah. And then she just starts like, because Nikita, you got a black belt, right? Or a brown belt?
I do have a black belt, actually.
Yeah, I'm like, she gonna kill somebody.
We got to scrub that from the internet.
I know. So yeah.
Exactly, Nancy. And that's why I don't talk to people, because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. So
yeah, the silly hour.
Remove myself.
Yes. The silly hour.
Oh yeah. So all the real content is done, guys. We don't have nothing else to say on our little outline. This is just, you guys are getting the filter, the unfiltered.
So, I mean, am I gonna say this right? I do want y'all to know, like, yes, we're talking about exploitation, but Dr. Ramani said it really well. You were not tricked like rolling up to a game of 5-card Monty. Is that what she said? The parts of you that you showed up with the best of yourself. You gave your best to these people, your strengths, all of your gifts, your goodwill, your the purity of heart, the person that wanted to change the world, the person who really wanted to love God. That's who showed up here. They were the ones who did not honor their end of the bargain. But you were not tricked. Like someone just was like, psych, you actually showed up, and they had the scriptures, they had the promises, they had a whole host of people behind them pretending, right, that this place had changed their lives for the better. pretending that this really was like the promised land. That these are your sisters and brothers, that you're never going to feel alone again, that you're going to be so happy, that you've never experienced fulfillment like this before. And they lied to you. The person that showed up was intelligent, smart, brilliant, kind, loving. They are the ones who need to hold all of the shame, not you. Not you. And yes, the scriptures were out of context. Okay. Let's get that straight. They were. They were absolutely out of context. But that's what happened though. This was not you just being fooled, like on a cartoon or something like that. You are an idealistic person who wanted a better world, you wanted a better life, and you wanted to make positive changes. That's who showed up to this place. Those people, the shame is on them. The shame is on them. That's it. That's it. You're amazing. And I'm so sorry. So sorry for what happened to all of us.
Yep. Well, guys, that's going to basically wrap it up. But I did want to let you know, let's see, it's 4/27. Up until the 30th, so 3 days from now, I do have a special link if anybody wants a $14 Sam's Club membership. If it's time for you to renew or you want one.
Yeah.
I had not had one since separating, and I wasn't going to get one, but when I found out it was only $14 for a whole year, I was like, let me hop up on that. So
I need to get it.
There's a link if you go to my TikTok or my Instagram. The link is in the bio. And it is for a whole year. I checked. I was like, is it $14 for a month? Don't play with me now. But it is a whole year and you get a legit subscription. So that's it. The deal is only running through the 30th. So I wanted to let you guys know. But other than that, be on the lookout for more fun content. Us together, us individually. I got a new webcam. I'm excited for that.
Oh yeah.
And that's basically it. So until next time, stay safe and stay free, because every day is a good day to not be in a cult. Bye. Oops. Oh, Lord. Can't even end the stream right.